Part 1. The First Rains Over Silver Mesa. The rain came to Silver Mesa the way a stranger comes to town unexpected, unwelcome by most, but bringing change whether folks wanted it or not. Lisa Flores pressed her forehead against the cool window of La Paloma Inn's kitchen, watching the first drops splatter against the dusty main street. After 3 months of drought, the earth would drink deep tonight. "Lisa, them sheets won't wash themselves." Senora Martinez's voice cracked like a whip from the washroom. "And mind you don't let that stew burn. Got important folks coming for the auction tomorrow." Lisa turned from the window, wiping her hands on her apron. The burn scar on her wrist, 3 circles interlinked like a serpent eating its tail, caught the lamplight as she stirred the pot. She'd learned to keep her sleeves long, but sometimes, like tonight when the kitchen ran hot, she forgot to be careful. The auction. The whole town had been buzzing about it for weeks. Water rights in Silver Mesa. Water meant more than gold, more than cattle, more than all the silver they'd pulled from the mountains before the mines played out. And tomorrow, the town council would decide who got to control the creek that fed the valley. She ladled stew into bowls, her movements precise and silent. 22 years of keeping quiet had made her good at being invisible. Good at being overlooked. The other girls at La Paloma chattered like magpies about men, about dreams of heading east, about the new ribbons at Henderson's store. Lisa just worked. Through the kitchen door, she could hear the dining room filling up, spurs jingling, chairs scraping, men's voices growing louder with each round of whiskey. She recognized most of them ranchers, merchants, the banker mister, Donnelly with his gold watch chain, and cutting through it all, that honey-sweet voice that made her stomach turn Vanessa Beaumont. "Daddy says we'll have the water rights secured by noon tomorrow." Vanessa was saying, after all, who else has the capital to properly develop the irrigation system? Certainly not these, provincial types. Someone laughed, probably Kellen Beaumont, Vanessa's younger brother. Lisa had seen him around town, always trailing after his sister like a hungry dog, mean-eyed and quick with his fists when he'd had too much drink. "Now, Miss Beaumont," another voice said, steady and low. "The auction's meant to be fair. Every landholder gets a chance to bid." Lisa knew that voice. Sheriff Rowan Hale. She'd seen him plenty but never spoken to him. What would she say? The sheriff was tall as a pine tree, with a scar running from his left eyebrow to his jaw. A souvenir from his cavalry days. He kept order in Silver Mesa with a quiet authority that didn't need much raising of voice or gun. "Oh, Sheriff Hale." Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Since when has anything in this territory been about fairness? It's about progress, about bringing civilization to these dusty streets. Daddy's vision." A crash from the kitchen made Lisa jump. One of the serving girls, young Mary, had dropped a tray. Lisa helped her clean it up, both of them working quick and quiet. But her mind stayed on the conversation in the dining room. Water rights, civilization, progress. Big words that usually meant small people got pushed aside. Later that night, after the dishes were done and the kitchen cleaned, Lisa climbed the narrow stairs to her room under the eaves. Rain drummed on the roof. A sound she'd missed. In Sonora, where she'd grown up, the rains came like clockwork. Here in New Mexico territory, weather was as unpredictable as people. She lit her candle and pulled out the leather pouch from under her mattress. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was the paper. Her mother's paper, written in Spanish, stamped with an official seal. Lisa couldn't read it, couldn't read anything. Truth be told, but she knew what it meant. Her mother had told her before the fever took her, "This proves we were here first. This proves the water is ours." The Flores family had worked that strip of land by the creek for 2 generations, built the first irrigation ditches, planted the first orchards. Then the war came, and the border moved, and suddenly they were Americans, whether they wanted it or not. And Americans, it turned out, needed different papers. Lisa touched the scar on her wrist. The Triad Circle gang had given her that. 5 years back, when they'd burned out what was left of her family's farm. Said Mexicans had no business owning land. Said lots of things while they held that hot iron to her skin. She'd survived. Walked to Silver Mesa with nothing but the clothes on her back and her mother's paper. Found work at La Paloma. Learned to be invisible. But tomorrow, she wouldn't be invisible. The rain grew heavier, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the valley. Lisa folded the paper carefully, placed it back in the pouch. She'd practiced what she would say, even though the words felt strange in her mouth. She'd stand up in that auction and show them the paper, make them see. In the morning, she rose before dawn as always. The rain had stopped, leaving the air clean and sharp. Puddles reflected the first light as she crossed the courtyard to start the kitchen fires. Today felt different. Her hands shook as she kneaded biscuit dough. "Are you feeling poorly?" Mary asked, coming in with fresh eggs. "You look peaked." Lisa shook her head, managed a small smile. Mary was one of the few who tried to be friendly, though Lisa never knew how to respond to kindness. It felt dangerous, like standing in the open during a lightning weather. The morning passed in a blur of breakfast service and preparation for the lunch crowd that would come after the auction. Lisa could hear the town square filling up outside, horses, wagons, voices rising and falling like tide. The auction was set for 10 o'clock. At 9:30, Lisa untied her apron. "Where you think you're going?" Senora Martinez blocked the door. Arms crossed. "We got work." "I need—" Lisa's voice came out rusty. She so rarely used it. "I need 1 hour, please." The older woman's eyes narrowed. "For what, you in some kind of trouble?" "No trouble, just business. At the auction." Senora Martinez laughed, but it wasn't a kind sound. "You, what business you got with water rights? You don't own nothing but the clothes on your back." Lisa lifted her chin. 1 hour. I'll work through supper to make up." Something in her face must have convinced the older woman. She stepped aside with a snort. 1 hour? You're late. You're looking for new work." The town square was packed. A platform had been built in front of the courthouse, where Judge Morrison sat with his gavel. The Beaumont family had claimed the front row Marcus Beaumont in his city suit, Vanessa in blue silk despite the dust, Kellen slouching with his hand near his gun. Lisa stayed at the back, clutching her leather pouch, her heart hammered against her ribs. She saw Sheriff Hale standing to the side, his badge catching the sun. Saw the ranchers and farmers and merchants, all here to bid on the future of Silver Mesa. Judge Morrison banged his gavel. "We're here to auction the water rights to Silver Creek, as mandated by the Territorial Authority. Bidding starts at—" "Wait!" The word came out of Lisa's mouth before she could stop it. Not loud, but in the sudden quiet, it carried heads turned, a sea of faces, all looking at her. "Wait," she said again, stronger now. She pushed through the crowd, her legs feeling like water. I have paper, document, for the water." The silence stretched tight as fence wire. Then Kellen Beaumont laughed. "The washer girl's got papers. What's next? The horse is gonna start voting." "Let her speak." Sheriff Hale's voice cut through the laughter that followed. "Everyone gets their say." Lisa made it to the platform, her hand trembling as she pulled out the oilcloth bundle. Judge Morrison frowned down at her. "Young lady, this is a serious proceeding. If you have documentation, it should have been submitted." "My mother's paper." Lisa unwrapped it carefully, held it up. "From before the war. Spanish grant, the water. The water was ours first." Marcus Beaumont stood, his face flushing red. "This is preposterous. Some Mexican claim from decades past. We're Americans now. American law." "American law recognizes Spanish land grants." A new voice from the crowd. Lisa turned to see Mr. Chen, who ran the general store, an unlikely ally. "Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Says so plain." "If it's even real, Vanessa said, her voice dripping contempt. Anyone could forge something like that, and she probably can't even read what it says. The words hit like a slap. Lisa felt her cheeks burn. It was true she couldn't read it, but she knew what it meant. Her mother had made sure of that. I can read Spanish. Sheriff Hale stepped forward. Let me see it. Lisa hesitated, then handed him the paper. His eyes moved over it, slow and careful. The crowd held its breath. It's a legitimate grant, he said finally. Dated 1842, grants water rights to the Flores family for the tract of land along Silver Creek's western bank. That land's been abandoned for years, Marcus Beaumont protested. Burned out, worthless. You can't just... Can't what? Lisa found her voice again, stronger now. Can't remember who cleared that land, who dug the first ditches. Water doesn't ask whose money flows. Water asks who's really thirsty. The words hung in the air like dust motes. Sheriff Hale handed the paper back to her, and for a moment, their fingers touched. His eyes met hers, gray as morning clouds. The document appears valid, Judge Morrison said slowly, but it needs proper verification, translation, legal review. He looked uncomfortable, like his collar was too tight. I propose we postpone the auction until these claims can be investigated. This is outrageous. Vanessa stepped forward, her perfect face twisted with fury. You're going to delay progress for the entire valley because some illiterate laundress... Miss Beaumont. Sheriff Hale's voice was quiet but firm. That's enough. Is it? She whirled on him. And what's your interest here? Sheriff's suite on the little desert flower, everyone knows she's got that mark on her. The triad circle mark. Probably earned it on her back, like... The crack of Lisa's palm against Vanessa's cheek echoed across the square. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Kellen's hand went for his gun, and Sheriff Hale's went for his, and the morning balanced on a knife's edge. 2 weeks. Judge Morrison banged his gavel hard. 2 weeks to verify all claims. Anyone who disturbs the peace before then will answer to me. Auction postponed. The crowd erupted. Lisa stood frozen as people pressed around her, voices rising and falling. She felt a hand on her elbow, firm but gentle. Come on, Sheriff Hale said. Let's get you somewhere safe. She let him guide her through the crowd, past the glaring Beaumonts, past the curious faces. The rain from last night had left puddles that reflected the sky. And as they walked, Lisa thought about water, how it always found its level, how it could wear down the hardest stone, given time. Thank you, she managed when they reached the sheriff's office. He studied her for a long moment. That was brave, what you did. Or stupid. Sometimes they're the same thing. He smiled then, and it changed his whole face. You really can't read that document. She shook her head, shame flooding her cheeks. Well, he said slowly, 2 weeks is time enough to learn a few words, if you're willing. Lisa looked up at him, this scarred lawman offering to teach her letters. Outside. She could hear Vanessa's voice rising shrill above the crowd, could feel the weight of what she'd started pressing down like mountain stone. But also, strangely, she felt light, like rain after drought. Yes, she said, I'm willing. Thunder rolled in the distance, promising more rain. In Silver Mesa, the dust was settling, but the storm was just beginning. Part 2, Scars in the Red Dust. The sheriff's office smelled of leather and gun oil. Coffee gone cold in tin cups. Lisa sat rigid in the wooden chair, her hands folded in her lap, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon light streaming through the window. Sheriff Hale moved around the room with the easy grace of a man comfortable in his own space, pulling books from a shelf. First thing about reading, he said, setting a worn primer on the desk between them, is understanding that letters are just symbols, like brands on cattle. Each one means something specific. Lisa nodded, though her mind was elsewhere. The slap she'd given Vanessa Beaumont still tingled in her palm. By now, the whole town would be talking. The quiet Mexican girl who'd dared to strike a Beaumont, who'd dared to claim water rights. Miss Flores. She startled, found him watching her with those storm-gray eyes. Sorry, I'm listening. No, you're not. But he said it kindly, settling into the chair across from her. You're thinking about what happened out there, about what comes next. Aren't you? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Speaking still felt strange, like wearing shoes that didn't quite fit. Every minute. He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. The Beaumonts don't take kindly to being challenged, especially Marcus. He's had his eye on controlling Silver Creek for years. Why are you helping me then? He was quiet for a moment, his finger tracing the scar on his face absently. Maybe because I've seen what happens when folks with money and power take whatever they want. Maybe because that paper of yours is legal, and the law should mean something. Or maybe, he paused, seeming to catch himself. Maybe I just think everyone deserves to read their own documents. Lisa looked down at the primer. The black marks on the pages might as well have been bird tracks. My mother tried to teach me before, but there was always work, always something more important. Nothing's more important than this. He opened the book to the first page. These are letters, 26 of them in English. Each one has a sound. For the next hour, he walked her through the basics. A is for apple, B is for bear. Simple things that children learned. But Lisa didn't feel ashamed. Rowan Sheriff Hale. She corrected herself, was patient, never making her feel foolish for struggling with sounds that tangled on her tongue. Your English is good, he said after she'd successfully sounded out Katie. Where did you learn? La Paloma. Senora Martinez. She insists we speak English to the customers. Says it's good for business. Lisa traced the letter C with her finger. I understand everything. Speaking is harder. Reading. She shrugged. You're doing fine. Better than fine. He reached for another book, and his sleeve pulled back. She saw scars there too. White lines against sun-browned skin. We all carry marks from the past. The words hung between them. Lisa found herself pulling at her own sleeve, making sure the brand was covered. But he'd already seen, she realized, that day at the auction, when everyone was staring. He'd been looking at her wrist. The triad circle, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Bastards burned out half the county before the army drove them into Mexico. His voice had gone hard. You're not the only one they marked, but you're one of the few who survived it. My father didn't, my brothers. The words came easier now, like a dam breaking. They fought back. I just stood there, frozen, like a rabbit. You were what, 17, 18? 17. And you're here now? That's not nothing. He stood, moving to the window. Outside. The afternoon was fading into evening, painting the sky purple and gold. The Beaumonts know about the mark. They'll use it against you. Vanessa already tried. That was just the beginning. They'll say you were part of the gang. Say the land was abandoned because your family was criminal. Anything to discredit that document. Lisa felt cold despite the warm air. Then why bother? Why not just stay invisible? He turned from the window. Is that what you want, to stay invisible? She thought about it. About 5 years of keeping her head down, speaking only when spoken to, existing in the margins of other people's lives. Safe. Maybe, but what kind of safety was it when you couldn't even claim what was yours? No, she said, not anymore. Good. He moved back to the desk. Then we'd better make sure you can read every word of that grant. Know it backward and forward. They'll question everything, every line, every seal. You need to be ready. They worked until the light failed, until Lisa's head swam with letters and sounds. Rowan lit a lamp, the warm glow softening the harsh angles of his face. She found herself stealing glances at him, this man who'd been a cavalry scout, who'd seen things that left scars inside and out, but who sat here teaching her to read with infinite patience. "That's enough for today," he said finally. "Can you come back tomorrow same time? I work until—" The door burst open. Kellen Beaumont stood there, whiskey on his breath, hand resting on his pistol. "Well, well, private lessons. Sheriff, how cozy." Rowan stood slowly. "Mr. Beaumont, something I can help you with." "Yeah, you can help by staying out of family business." Kellen's eyes found Lisa, ugly with threat. "And you, Senorita, you made a big mistake today. My sister's face is still red where you touched her." "Your sister should watch her tongue," Rowan said calmly. "Now, unless you have official business." "Oh, this is official." Kellen smiled, but it was all teeth. "See, we did some digging. That land your family squatted on? There's back taxes owed, 7 years' worth. You got 2 weeks to pay up, or that precious paper of yours won't be worth the match to burn it." Lisa's heart sank. Taxes, of course, even if the grant was real, even if she could prove ownership. Where would she get money for 7 years of taxes? "How much?" Rowan asked. $237. Kellen's grin widened. "Plus interest. Call it an even 300. You got that kind of money. Washer girl." She didn't answer. They both knew she didn't. "Thought not." Kellen touched his hat brim mockingly. "Evening, Sheriff, ma'am. Enjoy your lessons." After he left, Lisa sat in the gathering darkness, feeling the weight of impossibility. $300. It might as well be 3,000. "We'll figure something out," Rowan said quietly. She looked up at him. "This isn't your fight." "Maybe not, but I'm making it mine." He paused at the door. "Can you find your way back to La Paloma? I've been finding my way in the dark for years." Something passed across his face, respect, maybe, or understanding. "Tomorrow, then. Same time. And Miss Flores, be careful. The Beaumonts play rough, but they usually play smart. This visit from Kellen, that was meant to scare you off. When it doesn't work." He didn't finish, but he didn't need to. Lisa knew what came after warnings in the Beaumont playbook, the same thing that came after warnings from the Triad Circle. Walking back through the dusty streets, Lisa kept to the shadows out of habit. The town was quiet, most folks at supper. Through lit windows, she could see families gathered around tables, children learning their letters by lamplight, lives moving in ordinary rhythms. At La Paloma, Senora Martinez was waiting. "You're late." "I'm sorry. I said I'd work through supper." "Never mind that." The older woman studied her. "I heard what happened at the auction." Lisa waited for the scolding, the threats of dismissal. Instead, Senora Martinez sighed. "Your mother was like you, quiet, but with fire underneath. I knew her, before." This was news. "You did?" "She worked here, briefly, when your father was courting her. Beautiful girl, smart as a whip. Could read and write in 3 languages. She paused. "I was sorry to hear what happened to your family." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. The Beaumonts came by earlier, suggested I might want to find a new kitchen girl. One without so much baggage." Lisa's stomach clenched. "Are you letting me go?" "Do I look like someone who takes suggestions from Beaumonts?" Senora Martinez snorted. "But you need to be careful, girl. And you need to tell me what's going on. All of it." So Lisa told her about the document, the lessons with Sheriff Hale, the back taxes. When she finished, Senora Martinez was quiet for a long time. $300, she said finally. "That's a lot of money." "I know, but not impossible. The town council meets Friday. If you can prove that Grant is real, make them see the justice of it. Maybe they'll waive the taxes or set up a payment plan. This town wasn't always in the Beaumonts' pocket." "You think they'd listen to me?" I think Sheriff Hale's word carries weight, and there are others who remember how things were before the war, before families like yours got pushed aside. She stood. Now there's dishes need washing, and tomorrow you'll need to leave early again for those lessons. Best get them letters in your head if you're going to fight. Lisa worked late into the night, her hands in soapy water, her mind on letters and sounds. A is for apple, B is for Beaumont, C is for claim what's yours. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain from the mountains. Storm coming, people would say, but Lisa had weathered storms before. She'd survived the Triad Circle's fire. She'd found her voice in the town square. She could learn to read. She could fight for her water rights. And maybe, just maybe, she could win. Part 3. The Voice of the Forgotten Town Hall Meeting. Friday came wrapped in red dust and tension. The wind had been blowing since dawn, carrying grit from the desert that found its way into everything, eyes, teeth, souls. Lisa stood before the cracked mirror in her room, practicing the words Rowan had helped her prepare. My name is Lisa Flores. This document proves my family's legal claim to water rights along Silver Creek. Simple words, but her tongue still stumbled on them. 5 days of lessons had given her letters, basic words, but reading the full grant remained beyond her reach. That's where Rowan came in. He would translate, she would speak. Together, they would face the town council. She smoothed her best dress, brown calico, mended but clean, and checked that her sleeves covered the scar. Always covering, always hiding. But today she would stand in front of everyone. Today she would be seen. Are you ready? Mary poked her head into the room. Sheriff Hale's downstairs waiting. Lisa's stomach fluttered. Tell him I'll be right down. She tucked the grant into her leather pouch, along with something new, a paper where she'd practiced writing her name. The letters were crooked, uncertain, but they were hers. Rowan waited in the kitchen, hat in hand, wearing his good black coat. He looked different out of his everyday clothes, more formal, but the kindness in his eyes remained the same. Morning, Miss Flores. Sheriff? She noticed Senora Martinez watching from the doorway, a knowing look on her face. You remember what we practiced? Yes. Speak clearly. Look at the council members, not the floor. Don't let them interrupt until I'm finished. And if the Beaumonts try to rattle you, keep breathing. Stay calm. Remember, the truth is on my side. He smiled. That's right. You ready? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. The town hall was packed, every bench filled, people standing along the walls. The smell of tobacco and sweat and anticipation thick in the air. At the front, the 5 council members sat behind a long table, Judge Morrison in the center. The others arranged like a hand of cards. Lisa recognized them all: Banker Donnelly, Rancher Thompson, Merchant Chen, and old Doc Williams. The Beaumonts had claimed the entire front row. Marcus in his city suit, Vanessa in green silk that matched her eyes. Kellen sprawled with studied carelessness. They looked like what they were, people who expected to win. This special session is called to order. Judge Morrison banged his gavel. We're here to examine the validity of claims regarding water rights to Silver Creek. Miss Flores, please step forward. Lisa's legs felt like water, but she made them move. The walk to the front seemed endless, every eye in the room tracking her progress. She could hear whispers, Mexican girl and washerwoman, and nerve of her. State your name for the record. Judge Morrison said, Lisa Flores. Her voice came out stronger than expected. Daughter of Miguel and Rosa Flores. And you claim to have documentation regarding water rights. Yes. She pulled out the grant, hands steady despite her racing heart. This is a Spanish land grant from 1842. It gives my family rights to... Can you read it? Banker Donnelly interrupted, his pinched face skeptical. Lisa felt heat rise in her cheeks. Sheriff Hale will translate. That's not what I asked. Can you, personally, read this document you claim proves ownership? The trap was obvious, but she couldn't avoid it. No, but... So you bring us a paper you can't even read and expect us to overturn decades of established water usage. Donnelly's voice dripped condescension. I can read it. Rowan stepped forward. I've studied the document thoroughly. It's authentic. With respect, Sheriff. Marcus Beaumont rose, his presence filling the room. You're hardly an unbiased translator. Everyone's noticed your special interest in Miss Flores. Snickers rippled through the crowd. Lisa's face burned, but Rowan remained calm. My interest is in the law, Mr. Beaumont. Nothing more. Of course. Marcus smiled like a cat with a mouse. Still, perhaps we should have an independent translation. Someone without personal involvement. I'll translate it? The voice came from the back of the room. Everyone turned as Father Miguel walked forward, his brown cassock dusty from travel. The old priest moved slowly but with dignity, his presence commanding respect even from those who rarely darkened the church door. Father Miguel. Judge Morrison looked relieved. We didn't expect you back from Santa Fe so soon. I heard there was a question of Spanish documentation. I came to help. He held out his hand to Lisa. May I see the grant, child? Lisa handed it over, watching as the priest's eyes moved over the text. The room held its breath. This is indeed a legitimate grant, Father Miguel said finally. Issued by Governor Manuel Armijo to Miguel Flores in recognition of improvements made to the land along Silver Creek. It specifically grants water rights in perpetuity to the Flores family and their descendants. Even if it's real. Vanessa stood, her voice cutting. The land has been abandoned for years, burned out, worthless. The Flores family failed to maintain their claim. Is that so? Father Miguel's gentle eyes found Vanessa. And who burned them out? I wonder... Outlaws, Kellen said quickly. The Triad Circle. Nothing to do with us. But convenient for those who wanted the land cleared. The priest observed mildly. Are you making accusations? Marcus's voice had gone cold. I'm stating facts. The Flores family worked that land for 40 years. They were driven off by violence, not choice. Father Miguel handed the grant back to Lisa. In the eyes of God and law, violence does not erase rightful claims. Pretty words. Banker Donnelly cut in. But there's still the matter of back taxes. 7 years at $300, Lisa said. I know. And do you have $300? I have this. She pulled out a small cloth bag, heavy with coins. $43, everything I've saved in 5 years. That's not even close to... I also have this. Senora Martinez stepped forward, placing a larger bag on the table. $60. And this, Mr. Chen added his own contribution. $50. And mine. Doc Williams stood, reaching into his coat. $40. Lisa stared as more people came forward. Mary from the inn, the blacksmith Rodriguez, the widow Patterson who ran the boarding house, each placing what they could on the table. Not everyone plenty sat with arms crossed, allied with the Beaumonts or simply unwilling to risk. But enough to matter. $237. Judge Morrison counted, still short. I'll cover the rest. Rowan stepped forward, placing a leather wallet on the table. That should settle the tax debt. This is ridiculous. Vanessa's composure finally cracked. You're going to let them buy water rights with charity. My father offers progress, development, prosperity for the whole valley. Your father offers control, Father Miguel said quietly. There's a difference. The law is clear. Judge Morrison said, if the grant is valid and the taxes are paid, the claim stands. All in favor. Chen's hand went up immediately. Doc Williams followed. That made 2. Thompson the rancher hesitated, looking between the Beaumonts and the crowd. The Flores grant only covers the western bank. Plenty of water for everyone if we manage it right. His hand went up. 3. Donnelly sat frozen, calculating odds like the banker he was. The room held its breath. Water doesn't ask whose money flows, Lisa said suddenly, the words coming from somewhere deep. Water asks who's really thirsty. My family dug the first ditches, planted the first trees. We didn't take water, we shared it. That's all I want, to share, not control. Something shifted in Donnelly's face, maybe memory of droughts past, when the Flores ditches had saved half the valley's crops, maybe simple recognition that the wind was changing. His hand went up. 4 out of 5. The gavel came down like thunder. The claim is approved. Water rights to the western bank of Silver Creek are confirmed for Lisa Flores. The room erupted. Cheers from some, angry shouts from others. Marcus Beaumont's face had gone purple, while Vanessa stood rigid as stone. Kellen's hand moved toward his gun, then stopped as he met Rowan's steady gaze. This isn't over, Marcus said, loud enough to cut through the noise. Legal tricks and sentiment won't develop this valley. You'll see, when the next drought comes, when you need real infrastructure, you'll beg. We'll manage, Thompson the rancher said firmly, like we always have, together. The Beaumonts swept out, their supporters trailing behind. Lisa stood in the middle of it all, clutching the grant, feeling like she might float away. People pressed forward, shaking her hand, patting her shoulder, welcoming her as a landowner for the first time in her life. You did it, Rowan said quietly beside her. We did it, all of us. She looked around at the faces, brown and white, young and old, people who'd risked the Beaumont's anger to stand for what was right. I don't know how to thank them. You don't thank them. You honor them. By working the land, by sharing the water, by proving them right to trust you. Father Miguel approached, smiling. Your mother would be proud. You found your voice today. I almost didn't, when Mr. Donnelly asked if I could read. She touched the pouch where her practice paper lay. I felt so small. But you didn't stay small. That's what matters. The priest glanced at Rowan. And you'll keep learning reading, writing. Yes. Good. Knowledge is another kind of water. It should flow to everyone. He blessed them both and moved away to speak with others. As the crowd thinned, Lisa noticed something. The old cross on the town hall wall hung crooked, knocked askew by the morning's passion. Such a small thing, but it seemed significant. The old order tilting, making room for something new. I should get back, she said. Senora Martinez gave me the morning off, but there's work. Elisa, Rowan touched her arm gently. You own land now. Water rights. You don't have to just be a washerwoman anymore. I know, it's just, it doesn't feel real yet. It will, when you see the water flowing, when you plant your first seeds. He smiled. When you sign your name on your first water-sharing agreement. She smiled back, the expression still feeling new on her face. Will you keep teaching me even though the hearing is over? Try and stop me. Outside, the wind had died. The dust settled, revealing a clear blue sky. As Lisa walked back to La Paloma, she noticed things she'd never paid attention to before. The way the light caught on windows, the sound of children playing, the smell of bread from the bakery. Everything the same, but different now, because she was different, no longer invisible, no longer silent. She had claimed her voice along with her water, and both would flow where they were needed. The real work was just beginning. Part 4. Night before dawn poisoned coffee in Canyon Ambush. Lisa woke to darkness and the acrid smell of something wrong. The coffee pot on her small stove, she always prepared it the night before for an early start, gave off a bitter, chemical odor that made her stomach turn. She lit her candle with trembling hands and peered into the pot. The liquid looked normal, but that smell, she'd grown up on a farm, knew the scent of rat poison when it hit her nose. Someone had been in her room while she slept. Her blood ran cold. The window she'd left it cracked for air, easy enough for someone to reach through. Add something to the pot. A warning. Or worse. She dressed quickly, quietly, her mind racing. Tomorrow she was supposed to meet the water surveyor at the old property, start the process of reclaiming her family's land. The Beaumonts had been too quiet since the town hall meeting 3 days ago. Now she knew why. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy ones. Not the light tread of Mary or the other girls. Lisa blew out her candle, pressed her ear to the door. Sure, she drinks it. Boss wants her sick, not dead. Yet. Kellen's voice slurred with whiskey. What if she doesn't? Another man. Unfamiliar. Then we go to plan B. Either way, she won't make that meeting. The footsteps faded. Lisa waited, counting to 100, then eased her door open. The hallway was empty, but she could hear voices from downstairs. How many were there? She couldn't go down, couldn't stay here, the window, but they might be watching. Think, she told herself. What would Papa have done? The roof. There was an access ladder in the storage room, leading to the flat roof where they dried linens. From there, she could reach the stable roof, then down to the alley. She grabbed her leather pouch with the grant, tied her savings around her waist under her skirt, paused at the poisoned coffee. If they came back and found it full, they'd know she'd been warned. She poured half into the chamber pot, left the cup beside it as if she'd drunk some and gotten sick. Let them think their poison was working. The storage room was musty with the smell of old soap and starch. Lisa climbed carefully, each rung creaking under her weight. At the top, she pushed open the hatch, grateful for the moonless night. The roof was a landscape of shadows and hanging sheets. She moved between them like a ghost, remembering games of hide-and-seek with her brothers. At the edge, she could see lantern light in the alley below. 2 men watching the back entrance. No good, but the stable roof connected to the old warehouse next door, abandoned since the silver played out. From there, she jumped the gap, landed hard on her hands and knees. Splinters bit into her palms, but she bit back any sound, crawled to the far edge. This alley was dark, empty. The drain pipe was rusty but held her weight. She made it to the ground, skirts tangling around her legs. Which way not to Rowan, they'd expect that. Not to any of her friends from the town hall, she wouldn't bring danger to their doors. The old property, 4 miles through the desert. But she knew the way even in darkness, had walked it in dreams for 5 years. She kept to the shadows until she reached the town's edge, then broke into a run. The desert at night was a different world cold, alive with sounds of hunting and being hunted. Coyotes called in the distance. Something rustled in the sage beside her. A mile out, she heard horses, coming fast from town. They'd discovered she was gone. Lisa left the road, plunging into the maze of arroyos and rock formations that bordered the valley. She knew this land, had played in these washes as a child, but at night, with fear riding her shoulders. She stumbled, went down hard, her ankle twisted, sending fire up her leg. Get up, she told herself. Papa didn't raise quitters. The horses were closer now. She could see torches bobbing like devil's eyes. They were tracking her, of course they were. Her footprints in the sandy road would be clear as day. The canyon, Piedra Hueca, the hollow stone. She'd hidden there once during a flash flood, pressed against the back wall while water roared past. If she could reach it. She limped faster, using rock outcroppings to hide her trail. Behind her, men's voices echoed off the canyon walls. They'd split up, trying to cut off her escape routes. The entrance to Piedra Hueca was narrow, hidden by a fall of rocks. Lisa squeezed through, pressing deep into the darkness. The cave wasn't deep, maybe 12 feet, but it curved, providing cover. She crouched there, trying to quiet her breathing. Her ankle throbbed. Her hands bled from the roof and her falls, but she was alive. Hidden. Check that cave, Kellen's voice, terrifyingly close. A torch appeared at the entrance. Lisa pressed herself against the back wall, behind a jutting rock formation. Light played across the cave walls. Searching. "Nothing here," the man called back. "Just bat droppings." "I keep looking, she's gotta be close." The torch withdrew. Lisa waited, counting heartbeats. 100, 200. The voices grew distant, then faded entirely. She couldn't stay here. Dawn would come. And with it, clear sight of any trail she'd left. But which way back to town meant capture. Forward to the property meant leading them straight there. The water station, 3 miles east, where the railroad kept a tank for the steam engines. There was a shack there. Sometimes a guard, if she could reach it. Lisa emerged from the cave like a wounded animal, every sense alert. The eastern sky showed the faintest gray dawn coming. She had to move. The desert between her and the water station was open ground, dotted with Joshua trees and yucca. Their twisted shapes looked like reaching hands in the pre-dawn light. She moved from one to the next, using their scant cover. Halfway there, she heard horses again, coming from the direction of the property, moving to cut her off from the water station. They'd guessed her plan. Lisa dropped flat behind a cluster of prickly pear. Through the thorny paddles, she could see 4 riders. Kellen in the lead, rifle across his saddle. The others were hired guns, she could tell by the way they rode. Easy and watchful. They passed within 50 feet of her hiding spot. She held her breath, willing herself to become part of the earth. A rattlesnake buzzed somewhere nearby, annoyed by the disturbance. "She's gone to ground," one of the men said, "like a rabbit." "Rabbits get caught," Kellen replied. "Spread out. Check every rock, every bush. The boss wants her found before that surveyor shows up." They moved past, fanning out in a search line. Lisa waited until they were distant shadows, then crawled backward out of the cactus patch. Thorns caught her dress, her skin. She ignored the pain. New plan. If she couldn't reach town or the water station, she'd go where they'd already searched the property itself. The sun was rising by the time she saw it. The old adobe walls, half fallen, the burned timbers of what had been her home, and beyond, the silver ribbon of Silver Creek, catching the first light. Lisa's throat tightened. 5 years since she'd stood here. 5 years since the night of fire and iron. The Triad Circle had done their work well, even the fruit trees were dead, scorched stumps in neat rows. But the water still flowed. She limbed to the creek, fell to her knees at its edge. The cold water on her torn hands was paradise. She drank deeply, then bathed her swollen ankle. "I knew you'd come here." Lisa spun. Kellen stood 20 feet away, gun drawn but not quite aimed. His horse was tethered to a dead tree, which meant he'd been waiting, watching her approach. "Sentimental, that's your problem." He moved closer, confident now. "Could have stayed quiet, kept washing sheets, but you had to stir things up." "This is my land." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. "My water" was past tense. He gestured with the gun. "On your feet. We're going for a ride." "No. No," he laughed. "You see this gun, you know what I could do." "Yes." Lisa stayed on her knees by the water. "But you won't. Your boss wants to control the water legally. Can't do that if I'm dead under suspicious circumstances. Accidents happen. Girl wandering the desert alone. Twisted ankle. Son gets her. Tragic. Except Sheriff Hale knows I was meeting the surveyor. He'll investigate." "The sheriff?" Kellen's face twisted. "Yeah, he's sweet on you. Notice that. Maybe he needs an accident too." Lisa's hands found a river stone, smooth and heavy. "You're not that stupid. Kellen, kill a sheriff. You bring federal marshals." "Get up!" He raised the gun properly now, aimed at her chest. "I'm done talking." Lisa rose slowly. The stone hidden in her skirt folds. Her ankles screamed, but she didn't let it show. "Watch for an opening," Papa's voice whispered. "There's always a moment." "That's better. Now walk." to the horse." She limped toward him, exaggerating her injury. Let him think her helpless. At 10 feet, she stumbled, caught herself on a yucca stalk. The movement looked natural, but it put the plant between them for just a second. Now, Lisa threw the stone with all the strength of her washing-hardened arms. It caught Kellen in the temple, spinning him sideways. The gun went off, bullet whining past her ear. She lunged forward, grabbing for the weapon as he fell. They rolled in the dust, fighting for control. Kellen was bigger, stronger, but dazed from the stone. Lisa got her teeth into his gun hand, bit down hard. He screamed, dropped the weapon. She rolled away, came up with the gun. Kellen charged, and she pulled the trigger. The bullet took him in the shoulder, spinning him down. He lay there cursing, blood seeping into the sand. "You shot me, you crazy." "Be quiet." Lisa kept the gun trained on him, though her hands shook. "You'll live if you get that wrapped." Hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming fast. Lisa turned, ready to fight or run, then sagged with relief. Rowan led the group, with Thompson, the rancher, and several other men from town. They pulled up in a cloud of dust, taking in the scene Kellen bleeding. Lisa standing with the smoking gun. "You all right?" Rowan dismounted, moved to her carefully. "He was waiting. They poisoned my coffee. Tried to—" She couldn't finish. The gun fell from nerveless fingers. Rowan caught her as her knees buckled. "It's over. You're safe." "The surveyor is right here," Thompson said, gesturing to a thin man with spectacles. "Shall we get to work?" While the others tended to Kellen none too gently, the surveyor walked the property boundaries. Lisa leaned against Rowan, watching the sun climb higher, painting the desert gold. "How did you know to come?" "Mary saw men watching the inn, got worried, came to find me. When we found your room empty, the poisoned coffee—" His arm tightened around her. "I should have posted a guard." "I'm not your responsibility, Sheriff." He looked down at her, something shifting in those gray eyes. "Aren't you—" The surveyor called them over. "The boundaries match the grant exactly. Water rights are clear. You'll need to file some paperwork, but this land is legally yours. Miss Flores." Lisa looked around at the ruins of her childhood. So much work to do, but the water still flowed, and the sun was shining, and she was alive. "Thank you," she said to all of them, to the morning, to the memory of her family. "So," Rowan said quietly, "ready to go home?" Home. Such a simple word. But it struck her that she didn't know where that was anymore. Not the burned ruins. Not really La Paloma either. She looked up at him, this scarred lawman who'd taught her letters and stood by her against the powerful. "I'm ready," she said, and meant it for whatever came next. Part 5, Teach Me, she murmured. The sheriff's house sat on the quiet end of Mesquite Street, a modest adobe with blue shutters and a porch that caught the evening breeze. Lisa had never been inside before. Now she sat in Rowan's kitchen, watching him move about with practiced efficiency, heating water, gathering clean cloths and his medical kit. "The doctor should look at that ankle," he said, kneeling before her chair. "Doc Williams charges $2. I can wrap it myself." Lisa. Just her name. But the way he said it made her stop protesting. "Let me help." She nodded, suddenly aware of how she must look, dress torn, hands bloodied, dust caking every inch of her. The morning's violence felt like a dream now. Except for the throbbing in her ankle and the tremor in her hands, she couldn't quite stop. Rowan worked in silence, cleaning the cuts on her palms first. His touch was gentle but sure. The same hands that could draw and fire in one smooth motion, now careful as a mother with a child. The intimacy of it made her breath catch. "This might sting," he warned, applying iodine to the deeper scratches. It did, but she'd felt worse, had felt the white-hot iron of the triad circle, the soul-deep burn of losing everything. This was nothing. "You were brave today," he said, moving to examine her ankle. "Quick thinking with that stone." I was terrified. The admission surprised her. "When I found the poison, when they were hunting me, I wanted to run, keep running, find some place where no one knew me." "But you didn't." "No." She watched him wrap her ankle, noticed the way his hair fell forward, the gray threads among the brown. "My mother used to say courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about what you do with the fear." "Smart woman." He tied off the bandage, but didn't move away. "How's the pain?" "Better." It was, but that wasn't why her heart was racing. "Rowan, I need to tell you something." He sat back on his heels, giving her space but staying close. "What is it?" "The lessons? Learning to read? It wasn't just about the grant." She looked down at her bandaged hands. "When you teach me, when we sit together with the books, I feel like I matter, like I'm more than just the quiet girl who washes clothes." "You've always been more than that." "But I couldn't see it, couldn't—" She struggled for words. "After the circle, after what they did, I felt marked, not just here." She touched her wrist. "But inside, like everyone could see, I was damaged goods." "Lisa, let me finish." She met his eyes. "You look at me and see possibility. When you put letters in my hands, you're giving me power. And I don't know what to do with that feeling." He was quiet for a moment, then rose, moving to the window. The late afternoon light caught his profile, highlighting the scar that ran down his face. "After the war," he said slowly, "I didn't talk for 3 months. Not a word. Saw things in those cavalry charges that, well, the docs called it soldier's silence. Said it might never break." Lisa waited, understanding this was important. What broke it was teaching. They had me working with new recruits, showing them to read maps, write reports. One kid, couldn't have been more than 18, was struggling with his letters. Reminded me of my little brother. He touched the window glass. I opened my mouth to help him, and words came out. First time in 90 days. "Teaching healed you." "Partly, but mostly it was being useful again. Having someone need what I could give." He turned back to her. "So maybe we're teaching each other." The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Lisa stood, testing her wrapped ankle. It held. "I should go. Senora Martinez will wonder." "Stay." The word hung between them. "I mean, you should rest that ankle, and we could work on your reading. You're close to getting through that whole grant on your own." She should say no, should return to La Paloma, to safety and propriety and the narrow bounds of what was acceptable. But when had playing safe ever gotten her anything? "All right." He smiled then, that rare full smile that transformed his face. "Good, I'll make coffee. Real coffee, not poisoned." They settled in his small study. Books spread between them on the table, but this felt different from their lessons at his office. More intimate, more dangerous. "Start here," he said, pointing to a passage in the grant. "You know most of these words now." Lisa bent over the paper, sounding out the Spanish slowly. "Por la present. Se concede. Hereby is granted." She worked through it, Rowan helping when she stumbled. The words that had been mysteries a week ago were starting to make sense. "This part," she pointed, "about water for the common good. What does it mean exactly?" He leaned closer to see, his shoulder brushing hers. "It's saying the water rights come with responsibility, to share with neighbors in times of drought, to maintain the ditches for everyone's benefit. My father lived by that, even when things were hard. He made sure the Johnsons downstream got their share." She traced the words with her finger. "The Beaumonts don't understand. They think owning means controlling." "And you, what do you think?" She considered. I think love and water are alike. The more you try to dam them up, keep them for yourself, the more they find other channels. The words hung in the air. She hadn't meant to say love, hadn't meant to reveal so much. "Lisa!" His voice had gone rough. "I need to tell you something. The town's been talking. About us, about the time we spend together." Her stomach clenched. "I know. Vanessa made sure of that. I don't care about gossip, but I care about your reputation. You're a landowner now. You'll need respect to make your farm work again. Being seen with me too much could ruin my chances." She laughed, but it came out bitter. "I'm a Mexican woman who can barely read, with a brand from outlaws on my wrist. What reputation do I have to protect?" "Don't say that." "Why not? It's true." She stood, pacing to the bookshelf. "You know what Kellen called me this morning, sentimental? Said it was my weakness. Maybe he was right. He was wrong." Rowan stood too, moving toward her. "Caring about your family's land isn't weakness. Standing up to men with guns isn't weakness. Then what is it?" "It's who you are." He was close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of green in his gray eyes. "It's what makes you extraordinary." "I'm not." "You are." His hand came up, fingertips barely grazing her cheek. "From that first day at the auction, when you stood up in front of everyone, I've never seen such courage." "I was terrified," she whispered. "So was I." "You?" She almost laughed. "The war hero sheriff." "Terrified of you, of what you made me feel." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I'd built walls. Lisa, after the war, after everything, thought if I just did my job, kept the peace, it would be enough. Then you walked into that square with your mother's paper and your quiet fire, and all my walls started cracking." "Rowan?" She didn't know what to say, what to ask for. The want was too big, too dangerous. "Teach me," she murmured, the words coming from somewhere deep. "Teach me how this feels. I've been hiding so long. I don't remember how to be seen." His other hand came up, cradling her face. "You sure?" Instead of answering, she leaned into his touch, let her eyes close, felt the warmth of his breath as he bent toward her. The kiss was gentle, almost hesitant, a question more than a statement. Lisa had been kissed before rough, claiming kisses stolen at harvest dances when she was young. This was different. This was conversation, was teaching, was learning the language of connection. When they parted, she kept her eyes closed, savoring the moment. "Look at me," he said softly. She did, found his eyes bright with something that might have been wonder. "How's that for a first lesson?" His voice was trying for lightness, but missed. "I'm a quick study." She surprised herself by smiling. "But I might need more practice." He laughed, the sound filling the small room. "Lisa Flores, you're going to be the death of my reputation too." "Good. Maybe we can be outcast together." They kissed again, deeper this time. Her hands found the solid warmth of his shoulders. His arms came around her, careful of her injuries, but holding her like she was precious, breakable, worth protecting. When thunder rolled outside, they broke apart, both breathing hard. "Storm coming," she said unnecessarily. "Been coming for days." He touched his forehead to hers. "Stay until it passes." She should go, should think about tomorrow, about what people would say, about all the reasons this was complicated. But tonight, she was tired of shoulds. Yes. They returned to the table, to the books and papers, but everything had changed. Now, when he leaned close to point out a word, she felt the warmth of him. When their hands brushed, reaching for the same page, electricity sparked between them. "This word," she pointed, "esperanza. It means hope. Yes. Yes. That's what this feels like." She gestured between them. "Hope. Like maybe the broken things can be mended." He caught her hand, pressed it to his lips. We will." Outside, the rain began. washing the dust from the air. Inside, in the circle of lamplight, two damaged souls taught each other to read the language of trust. One breath, one word, one gentle touch at a time. Tomorrow would bring challenges, Beaumont revenge, town gossip, the hard work of reclaiming burned land. But tonight, there was coffee and books and the sound of rain. There was the miracle of being seen, being known, being chosen despite all the scars. "Teach me," she had asked, and he was showing her, not just letters on a page, but how love could feel when it came softly, without force or fire, how it could heal even the deepest brands. The storm outside grew stronger, but inside, they were safe, together, learning. Part 6. Dance of reconciliation and gunfire in the square. The lanterns swayed in the evening breeze, casting dancing shadows across the town square. For the first time in years, Silver Mesa had something to celebrate, a water-sharing agreement that promised prosperity for all. The music of guitars and fiddles filled the air, and couples whirled across the makeshift dance floor. Lisa stood at the edge of the celebration, wearing her mother's best dress, deep blue cotton with silver embroidery at the collar. Carefully preserved all these years. She'd spent the afternoon helping set up tables, stringing lights, making sure everyone felt welcome at what folks were calling the peace dance. "You clean up nice," Mary said, appearing at her elbow with 2 cups of punch. "That sheriff of yours won't be able to take his eyes off you." "He's not my sheriff," Lisa protested, but her cheeks warmed. "Sure he's not. That's why he's been staring at you for the past 10 minutes. Lisa followed Mary's gaze. Rowan stood near the courthouse steps, talking with Judge Morrison, but his eyes kept drifting her way. When their gazes met, he smiled that private smile she'd come to treasure in the 2 weeks since the night of the storm. 2 weeks of stolen moments, of reading lessons that turned into long conversations, of learning each other's silences and stories. The town talked, of course, but Lisa found she cared less each day. She had her land back, water flowing to the old ditches, and the beginnings of something tender and true with a man who saw her as more than her scars. "Excuse me, Miss Flores." She turned to find Marcus Beaumont standing behind her, hat in hand, her body tensed, ready for flight or fight. "Mr. Beaumont, I wondered if we might speak privately." Lisa glanced around. The celebration continued, but several people were watching. Rowan had started moving their way. "We can talk here," she said. Marcus sighed, looking older than his 50 years. "Fair enough. I came to apologize for Kellen's actions, for our opposition to your claim." Lisa studied his face, searching for deception, found only weariness. "Kellen acted on his own." "No." Marcus met her eyes. "He acted on my anger, my pride. I've built my fortune on controlling resources. Miss Flores, when you challenged that..." He shrugged. "I reacted badly." "Your son could have killed me." "Yes, and he'll face justice for it. Judge Morrison has agreed to a trial next month." He paused. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, just for a chance to make things right. The water agreement, I'll honor it. No tricks, no legal challenges." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm tired." The admission seemed to surprise him. "Tired of fighting. Tired of seeing my children become..." He glanced across the square where Vanessa held court, cold and beautiful as winter moonlight. "I wanted to build an empire. Instead, I've built walls." Rowan reached them then, hand resting easy on his gun belt. "Everything all right here?" Mr. Beaumont was just apologizing." Lisa said she made a decision. "Would you like to sit down?" "Mr. Beaumont, you look weary." Surprise flickered across his face. "That's kind of you." They found a bench away from the dancing. Marcus sat heavily, suddenly looking his age. "Your mother?" he said after a moment. "Rosa, I knew her, years ago. Lisa stiffened. You did? She worked at the bank briefly, before she married your father. Brilliant with numbers. I offered her a permanent position, but she chose love over ledgers. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I thought her foolish then. Now, watching my own children grow cold as coins, perhaps she was the wise one. She was happy, Lisa said softly. Even when times were hard, she sang while she worked. And are you happy? The question caught her off guard. I'm learning to be. Good, that's good. Marcus stood, settling his hat. I should go, but Miss Flores, the offer stands. Water agreement, no interference. You have my word. He walked away, shoulders bent under invisible weight. Lisa watched him go, feeling an unexpected pity. All that money, all that power, and what had it brought him? That was generous, Rowan said, sitting beside her. After everything, my mother used to say holding hatred is like carrying hot coals. You're the one who gets burned. She leaned into his warmth. Besides, I got what I wanted. My land, my water. Justice for Kellen's attack. The rest is just pride. Have I mentioned lately that you're remarkable? She smiled. Not since this morning. Shameful oversight. Dance with me and I'll make it up to you. Here in front of everyone. Especially here. Especially in front of everyone. He stood, offering his hand. Unless you'd rather maintain the fiction that we're just teacher and student. She looked at his extended hand, thought of all the reasons to say no, then thought of her mother choosing love over ledgers, and placed her hand in his. The fiddle was playing a waltz, sweet and slow. Other couples made room as Rowan led her into the dance. Lisa felt the weight of watching eyes but forced herself to focus on him, the warmth of his hand at her waist, the steady strength of his shoulder under her palm. You're trembling, he murmured. Everyone's staring. I let them. You're the most beautiful woman here. Rowan. It's true, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. He spun her gently, her skirts flaring. I'm tired of stolen moments and careful distances. You deserve better. What are you saying? I'm saying... The gunshot cracked like thunder, shattering the music. Screams erupted as people dove for cover. Rowan spun, pushing Lisa behind him as he drew his weapon. More shots. From multiple directions, men on horseback charged into the square, firing into the air and sometimes lower. Not random violence, they were heading for something specific. The courthouse, someone yelled. They're after the water records. Lisa's blood chilled. The original documents were stored there, grants, agreements, all the legal papers that protected the town's water rights. Stay here, Rowan ordered, already moving. Like hell. She hiked up her skirts, following, around them. Chaos reigned, tables overturned, lanterns smashing, people running in all directions. 3 riders had dismounted at the courthouse, working to break down the door. Others kept the crowd back with covering fire. Lisa recognized none of them hired guns, brought in from elsewhere. Rowan took cover behind a water trough, returning fire. His first shot dropped one of the horsemen, sending the others wheeling for better positions. The side door, Lisa called. They're going for the side. Sure enough, 2 men were circling the building. If they got inside, got to the records room. Lisa ran, keeping low, behind her. Rowan cursed and followed. They reached the courthouse's side entrance just as the first man kicked the door open. Rowan's shot took him center mass. He fell backward, gun clattering away. The second man turned, raising his rifle, and Lisa acted without thinking. She grabbed a shovel leaning against the wall and swung with all her strength. The flat blade caught him across the jaw, spinning him into the dirt. Nice swing, Rowan panted. Now get inside. Bar the door. What about you? I'll hold them here. Go. She wanted to argue, but could see more riders coming. Inside, She could protect the documents. She dove through the door, slammed it shut, dropped the heavy bar into place. The records room was down the hall. Lisa ran, her heeled boots slipping on the polished floor. Behind her, gunfire intensified. How many were there who had sent them? The records room door stood open, papers scattered across the floor. Someone was already inside, stuffing documents into a leather satchel. Vanessa Beaumont. She looked up as Lisa entered, her perfect face twisted with fury. This is all your fault. Put the papers down, Vanessa, or what you'll hit me again. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Do you know what you've cost us? Father's lost his spine, talking about cooperation and sharing. The other investors are pulling out. Our plans, our future ruined because of one uppity Mexican girl. So you hired gunmen, people could die out there. People die every day. What matters is power, control. She clutched the satchel tighter. These documents represent everything. Whoever controls the water controls the valley. Is that what you really believe, that it's all about control? What else is there? Lisa stepped closer, hands raised peacefully. Community, connection, love. Love, Vanessa spat the word. Love is weakness. Look what it did to my father, turned him soft, sentimental. It made him human again. I don't want to be human. The words tore from Vanessa's throat. I want to matter, to build something that lasts. Then build it with people, not against them. Lisa was close enough now to see tears in Vanessa's eyes. It's not too late. Put the papers down. Call off your men. They're not my men anymore. Once they started, they won't stop until... Vanessa's face crumpled. I just wanted to hurt you, to take back what we'd lost. I didn't mean for... Gunfire. Very close. Someone trying to shoot through the barred door. We need to get out, Lisa said urgently. Both of us. Why would you help me? Because that's what water does. It flows to everyone who needs it. She held out her hand. Come on. Vanessa hesitated, then dropped the satchel. Papers spilled across the floor, Grants. Agreements. The legal foundation of Silver Mesa's future. They ran together, heading for the back exit. Behind them, wood splintered as the gunman broke through. The back door was locked, but Lisa knew where Judge Morrison kept the spare key. They burst into the alley to find chaos. The hired guns were pulling back, some carrying wounded companions. Townsfolk were fighting back now, armed citizens taking positions. Rowan had organized a defense, turning the celebration into a battlefield. There, Vanessa pointed. My father. Marcus Beaumont stood in the open, trying to wave his men back, shouting for them to stop. He didn't see the rider bearing down on him, rifle raised. Vanessa screamed. Lisa moved. She slammed into Marcus, knocking him aside as the shot rang out. Pain bloomed in her shoulder, spinning her to the ground. Everything went sideways. She heard Vanessa screaming, Rowan shouting her name, felt hands on her, pressing something to the burning pain in her shoulder, tasted dust and copper. Stay with me, Rowan's voice, rough with fear. Doc's coming. Stay with me, Lisa. She tried to speak, to tell him she was all right, but words wouldn't come. The world grayed at the edges. The last thing she heard was Vanessa Beaumont sobbing, I'm sorry, over and over, like a prayer for absolution. Then darkness claimed her, soft as her mother's lullabies, deep as Silver Creek's waters. Part 7. Dawn Verdict, Justice, and Mercy. Lisa woke to morning light filtering through muslin curtains and the sound of voices arguing outside her door. Her shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, but the pain felt distant, muffled by laudanum's haze. She's been shot. Vanessa, she needs rest. Doc Williams, firm but tired. I need to see her, to explain. What's to explain? Rowan's voice, sharp with anger. You hired those men. People died because of your greed. I didn't hire them to kill anyone, just to to create chaos. Grab the documents. It went wrong. Everything you Beaumonts touch goes wrong. Enough. A new voice. Judge Morrison. Sheriff, Miss Beaumont has surrendered herself to the law. She'll face justice. But right now, we need her cooperation to round up the remaining gunmen. Lisa tried to speak, managed only a croak. The door opened immediately, and Rowan was there, his face haggard with worry. You're awake. He helped her sip water, his hands infinitely gentle. Don't try to talk yet. How long, she managed. 2 days. The bullet went clean through. Missed anything vital. Doc says you'll heal clean. The documents. Safe, all of them. He smoothed hair from her forehead. You saved them, and Marcus Beaumont. Memory flooded back the rider. The rifle, throwing herself at Marcus. Is he alive, grateful, and his daughter? Rowan glanced at the door. She's been here since it happened. Won't leave. Let her in. Lisa. Please. He sighed, but went to the door. Vanessa entered hesitantly, a ghost of her former self. Her silk dress was replaced by simple calico. Her perfect hair pulled back severely. Her eyes were red with crying. I'll be right outside, Rowan said, with a warning look at Vanessa. When they were alone, Vanessa approached the bed slowly, as if Lisa might bolt. I'm sorry. That's inadequate. I know, but I'm so very sorry. Lisa studied her, this woman who'd scorned her, threatened her, nearly caused a massacre, who'd also lost control of her own plans, watched violence spiral beyond intention. Sit, Lisa said. Vanessa perched on the bedside chair, hands twisted in her lap. Father told me what you did. You saved his life, after everything we've done to you. He's your father. You love him. Lisa shifted, wincing. I understand that. How can you be so... Vanessa shook her head. I called you names. I tried to destroy everything you'd built. I deserve your hatred. Maybe, but what would that accomplish? Vanessa was quiet for a moment. Then, the gunmen are talking. They say I hired them, which is true. They say I ordered the shooting, which isn't, but who'll believe that? What does Judge Morrison say? That I'll hang. Vanessa's voice was matter-of-fact. Conspiracy, attempted murder, inciting violence. The town wants blood for blood. Lisa absorbed this. Outside, she could hear the normal sounds of Silver Mesa horses, conversations, life continuing. Inside this room, a woman faced death. What do you want? Vanessa. What? The question seemed to confuse her. You said you wanted to matter, to build something lasting. Is that still what you want? Vanessa laughed bitterly. From a jail cell or a noose? What if there was another way? What are you talking about? Lisa struggled to sit up, ignoring the fire in her shoulder. The water agreement needs managing, schedules, allocations, maintenance planning. It needs someone who understands numbers, contracts, negotiations. You're suggesting I... Vanessa stared. You hate me. I don't hate anyone. It's too heavy to carry. Lisa met her eyes. You're smart, educated, ruthless when needed. Those skills could destroy, or they could build. Your choice. The town will never accept. The town will accept justice. Question is, what's more just hanging you, or making you work to repair the damage? Vanessa's eyes filled. Why would you do this? Because my mother taught me about second chances. Because your father is trying to change, and losing you would break him. Because... Lisa paused, finding the truth. Because I think underneath all that ice, there's someone who genuinely wants to matter. This is your chance. I don't deserve. None of us deserve grace. That's what makes it grace. The door opened. Rowan entered with Judge Morrison and Marcus Beaumont. Marcus rushed to his daughter, but Vanessa pulled back. Don't! Father, I need to face this. Judge Morrison cleared his throat. Miss Flores, you're the primary injured party. Your testimony will carry significant weight in the proceedings. I know. Lisa kept her eyes on Vanessa. I want to propose an alternative to hanging. Lisa Rowan started. Hear me out. Vanessa Beaumont is guilty of conspiracy. That's clear. But she's also capable of serving the community. I propose 5 years of supervised service, managing the water compact under the town council's direction. No pay, just room and board. Any violation, any attempt to manipulate the system for personal gain, and the original sentence stands. That's unprecedented, Morrison said slowly. So was a Mexican washerwoman claiming water rights. Lisa pointed out, unprecedented doesn't mean wrong. Marcus found his voice. You'd trust her with that responsibility? I'd trust the town to watch her, and I'd trust her desire to prove she's more than her worst mistake. Morrison looked between them all. This would need town approval. A special meeting. Then call one. Lisa said, let the people decide vengeance or redemption. 3 hours later, the town hall was packed again. Lisa insisted on attending, despite Doc's protests. Rowan carried her to a chair at the front, her arm in a sling, face pale but determined. Vanessa stood before the assembly like Lisa had weeks ago alone, facing judgment, but where Lisa had clutched her mother's grant, Vanessa held only her own choices. Judge Morrison explained the proposal. The room erupted in arguments. She hired killers. 2 men died. Hanging's too good for her. But other voices rose too. The sheriff's right she surrendered. Miss Flores forgave her. Shouldn't we? 5 years hard service ain't no picnic. Thompson the rancher stood. I got no love for the Beaumonts, but I've seen what hatred does to a community. Seen it in the war. Seen it here. Miss Flores is offering another way. Question is, are we brave enough to take it? Father Miguel rose next. Mercy is not weakness. It's the hardest strength there is, this young woman. He gestured to Vanessa. Has a choice die for her sins or live to redeem them? Which serves our community better? The debate raged for an hour. Finally, Morrison called for a vote. All in favor of the alternative sentence. Hands rose slowly. First a few, then more. Lisa counted, heart pounding. When Morrison tallied the final count, it was close, but Mercy had won by 7 votes. Vanessa sagged, catching herself on the podium. I thank you, all of you. I swear, I'll... Don't swear, Lisa interrupted. Just do the work. As the crowd dispersed, Rowan helped Lisa back outside. The sun was setting, painting Silver Mesa in shades of gold and rose. That was maybe the bravest thing I've ever seen, he said quietly. Or the most foolish. Sometimes they're the same thing, he smiled, echoing their first conversation. You really think she can change? I think everyone can, given the chance. Lisa leaned into him. Look at us. A silent washerwoman and a scarred sheriff. Who'd have thought? About that. He stopped walking, turned to face her. I've been thinking, these past days, when you were hurt, I realized something. What? That I don't want any more stolen moments. No more pretending we're just friends or teacher and student. He took her good hand. I want to court you properly, publicly, with intention. Lisa's breath caught. People will talk more than ever. Let them. I'm asking what you want, not them. She thought about it, the gossip, the challenges, the complications of binding her life to his. Then thought about waking to find him beside her bed, watching him organize the town's defense, feeling a steady presence through everything. I want Sunday dinners and evening walks. I want reading lessons that last for hours because we get distracted talking. I want... She smiled. I want you, Rowan Hale, publicly and properly. He kissed her there on Main Street, in full view of anyone watching. Gentle because of her injury, but sure in claiming, a public declaration more binding than any words. When they parted, she saw Vanessa watching from the courthouse steps. The woman raised her hand, slightly acknowledgement, gratitude, maybe hope. Lisa nodded back. They'd never be friends, but perhaps they could be allies in building something new. I should get you back to Doc's, Rowan said. In a moment. Lisa looked around at Silver Mesa, her town now. Truly hers. The place where she'd found voice and courage and love. Where she'd learned that justice and mercy could flow together like streams joining a river. Tomorrow, there'd be water schedules to plan and ditches to clear. There'd be Vanessa to supervise and a community to continue healing. There'd be her land to tend and a relationship to nurture. But tonight, as the first stars appeared above the desert, Lisa Flores stood with the man she loved in the town she'd helped save. No longer invisible or silent, no longer marked only by old scars. She was marked now by choices to speak, to forgive, to love, to let mercy flow like water to all who thirsted for it. Ready? Rowan asked. She took his offered arm, turned toward Doc's house and rest. Yes, I'm ready. Behind them, Silver Creek caught the last light, flowing steady and sure toward the future they'd build together, one breath, one word, one act of grace at a time. Then, Part 8. 1 year later, gentle rains and hands entwined. The rain came gently to Silver Mesa that September morning, a year after Lisa Flores had first stood in the town square with her mother's grant. Not the violent storms of the previous season, but a steady, nurturing rain that whispered promises to the thirsty earth. Lisa stood in the doorway of the newly built schoolhouse, watching the drops purl on the wooden railings. Inside, 23 students bent over their slates, practicing their letters. The evening school had been her idea, a place where those who worked during the day could learn to read and write when the sun went down. Mrs. Hale, how do you spell irrigation? Young Tommy Rodriguez asked, his tongue poking out in concentration. Mrs. Hale, 3 months married, and the name still felt new on her shoulders, precious as rain after drought. Sound it out, she encouraged. I. As Tommy worked through the word, Lisa touched her belly reflexively. Too early for anyone else to notice, but she knew, the gentle swell that promised new life, new hope. She'd tell Rowan tonight, after the town meeting. That's excellent. Tommy, now who can tell me why irrigation matters to Silver Mesa? A forest of hands shot up, these students ranging from 8-year-old Maria Chen to 60-year-old widow Patterson had embraced learning with a thirst that matched the desert's need for water. Because water is life, said Carlos, one of the ranch hands from the Thompson spread. And controlling it means surviving. Not controlling, Lisa corrected gently. Managing, sharing, there's a difference. Through the window, she could see the water distribution office across the square. Vanessa Beaumont, or rather, Vanessa Beaumont in service, as the legal document stated, was visible through the lit windows, bent over ledgers, true to her word. She'd thrown herself into managing the water compact with an efficiency that surprised even skeptics. Time for reading groups. Lisa announced, Advanced readers, please help the beginners. Remember, we rise together or not at all. As the students reorganized themselves, she noticed a familiar figure in the doorway. Rowan, rain dripping from his hat, that private smile playing at his lips. Sheriff Hale, can I help you? Just admiring my wife's handiwork. He stepped inside, voice low. 23 students now. 25. The Johnson brothers start next week. At this rate, you'll have the whole valley reading by Christmas. That's the plan. She moved closer, drawn as always by his steady presence. How was patrol? Quiet, though there's news from the territorial courthouse. Those hired guns from last year, the ones who survived, are talking. Seems they were paid by a group of investors from back east, men who wanted to buy up water rights across the territory. Lisa's blood chilled. Are there others? Possibly. Word is they're targeting other valleys, other communities. He touched her face gently. But Silver Mesa stood strong. We've become an example. Other towns are creating their own water compacts, based on ours. Based on Vanessa's organizational structure, you mean? Based on your vision of sharing instead of hoarding. She just puts numbers to it. The school door opened again. Father Miguel entered, shaking rain from his cassock. Mrs. Hale. Sheriff, I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. Father, the adult class doesn't start for another hour. Actually, I came with a request. The priest looked almost shy. I've been corresponding with the mission schools in Santa Fe. They're interested in your teaching methods, how you've made letters accessible to people who thought they'd never read. Would you consider writing a guide, something other teachers could use? Lisa stared. Me write a teaching guide? Who better? You learned as an adult. You understand the struggles, the fears. Father Miguel smiled. Think of how many people you could help. I'll think about it. After the priest left, Rowan pulled her into the small supply room. You're going to do it, aren't you? Write the guide. Maybe, if I have time. She bit her lip. There's something else that might keep me busy. Oh. We're going to need to add a room to the house, a small one, for someone who'll arrive around spring. She watched understanding dawn in his eyes, followed by joy so pure it took her breath away. You're sure? Doc Williams confirmed it yesterday. A spring baby, he says. Rowan pulled her close, careful as always of her still tender shoulder. Lisa Hale, you continue to amaze me. Wait until you see the water distribution plans I've drawn up for the new orchards. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. Of course you have. Can't just grow a baby, have to revolutionize agriculture while you're at it. The land is ready. Papa's old fruit trees are gone. But the soil remembers. I want to plant new ones. Apples, peaches, maybe even some of those orange trees from California. She pulled back to look at him. I want our children to grow up with the smell of blossoms, the taste of fruit warmed by sun. Children plural. Well, we'll start with one and see how it goes. A knock interrupted them. Mrs. Hale. Vanessa's voice, still formal but no longer cold. I have the water reports for the town meeting. They emerged from the supply room to find Vanessa waiting, ledgers in hand. A year of service had changed her, the silk dresses replaced by practical cotton, the perfect ringlets by a simple bun. But more than appearance. Something in her eyes had shifted. The desperate hunger for control had given way to something like purpose. The numbers look good, Vanessa reported. Even with the expansion to the Rodriguez plot, we'll have sufficient flow. I've worked out a rotation schedule that ensures everyone gets their full allotment. Thank you. Lisa took the ledgers. Will you be at the meeting? If I'm permitted. I know my presence still makes some uncomfortable. You've earned your place, Rowan said firmly. The work speaks for itself. Vanessa's face softened slightly. Thank you, Sheriff. I won't forget what this town has given me. A second chance is a precious thing. After she left, Lisa and Rowan closed the school and walked toward the town hall. The rain had stopped, leaving the air clean and sharp. Puddles reflected the early evening sky, turning the muddy street into a pathway of mirrors. The meeting was full but orderly. Marcus Beaumont sat in the middle rows, not the front anymore, but not hiding in the back either. He caught Lisa's eye, nodded with something that might have been gratitude or respect or both. Thompson the rancher stood first. Before we get to business, I want to say something. A year ago, some of us thought this water-sharing notion was foolish. Thought it'd never work. He looked at Lisa. We were wrong. This year's harvest is the best in a decade. Every farm that wanted water got it. That's not foolishness, that's wisdom. Applause rippled through the room. Lisa felt heat rise in her cheeks, but made herself stand tall. A year ago, she'd have shrunk from the attention, Now she understood that visibility came with responsibility. The meeting proceeded smoothly. Water reports, maintenance schedules, plans for expanding the irrigation network. Vanessa presented her numbers with quiet efficiency. When someone questioned a calculation, she explained without defensiveness, accepted suggestions without pride. "One more item," Judge Morrison announced as the meeting wound down. "The territorial governor has sent word. He's heard about our water compact, wants to use it as a model for new legislation. He's requesting a delegation from Silver Mesa to present our system to the Territorial Assembly." "Who'll go?" someone asked. Morrison looked at Lisa. "I think that's obvious. Mrs. Hale, as the originator of the sharing principle, Miss Beaumont, as the architect of its implementation, and Sheriff Hale, to speak to how it's maintained peace in our valley." Lisa's heart raced. Speaking to the whole territory, the girl who'd stayed silent for 5 years. "When?" she managed. "Next month. It's a great honor for Silver Mesa." As the meeting dispersed, people stopped to congratulate her. Mary hugged her tight. "Mr." Chen shook her hand solemnly. Even some who'd opposed her initially offered their support. Outside, the evening star had appeared, bright against the darkening sky. Lisa and Rowan walked slowly home, hands linked. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified, but—" she considered. "Also ready. This message needs to spread. Water is life, but only if it flows to everyone." Their house, built on the site of her family's old home, glowed warmly in the distance. They'd incorporated one wall of the original structure, smoke-stained but solid, the past supporting the present, damaged but not erased. "I've been thinking," Rowan said, "about names for the baby. Already we have months. If it's a boy, Miguel, for your father and the priest who stood for justice. If it's a girl—" he paused. "Rosa, for your mother." Lisa's eyes misted. "Yes, perfect." They'd reached the house through the window. She could see the table set for dinner, the books still scattered from that morning's lesson, the water allocation maps she'd been working on, a life built from ashes, watered by courage and love. "Look," Rowan pointed to the horizon. "Storm clouds, but far off, might miss us entirely. Or might bring more rain for the orchards." Lisa leaned into him. "Either way, we're ready." Inside, as they prepared dinner together, Lisa thought about the threads that had woven this new life, a paper in Spanish she couldn't read, a sheriff patient enough to teach, a town brave enough to choose mercy, water rights that became human rights. Tomorrow would bring its challenges, the Territorial Assembly, the new orchards, the baby growing within her. There were rumors of the Triad Circle reforming in Mexico, whispers of those Eastern investors trying again elsewhere. The scars on her wrist would always remind her that safety was never guaranteed. But tonight, there was lamplight and laughter. There was Rowan's voice reading aloud from the evening paper while she cooked. There was the promise of rain and the certainty of dawn. Lisa Flores had found her voice in a dusty town square, claimed her heritage with shaking hands, learned that love could heal the deepest wounds. The silent girl was silent no more. The invisible woman had become a beacon. And in Silver Mesa, New Mexico, the water flowed as it should to everyone who thirsted, bringing life to all it touched. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale. Are you listening at home? During your commute? Or perhaps while working? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's connect over our love for these Wild West stories. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Wild West Night channel. Give this video a like and hit that hype button to help more people discover these stories of courage, love, and redemption in the American frontier. Until next time, partners.